Alrighty. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Daily Casts. I have three wonderful guests on tonight whose mics are not yet live. Now they should be. Let me get this music paused. So, we're back for day 2 of Daily Casts. Thank you all for coming out, and I want to say thank you to my guests, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves and say kind of when they started playing Netrunner and kind of, I think we'll start there. First in the order of my guest lists, though, last in the Discord call, Safer, why don't you introduce yourself first?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I go by Safer. I started playing Netrunner circa probably 2015, early 2015. Played for a while until 2017 or so. Dropped off, unrelated to the Mumbet cycle. I only got the very beginning of it, and I was excited for it. And then came back to the game very, very recently, actually. Now I'm part of the
Oh, music's still playing. My goodness. All right. Well, apologies about that. Safer, would you mind just quickly running through that again for the people so that they can actually hear you and music's not overrunning you?
Yeah, no worries. Not a problem. So, hello everyone. I'm Safer. I've been playing Netrunner since late 2014, early 2015, where I discovered it in my local game store and it became my favorite card game very, very quickly. I stopped playing 2017 around the Mumbet cycle, not because of the Mumbet cycle itself, just left it for personal reasons, and then came back to the game just recently, right as the Automata Initiative was coming out, and I am now part of the NSG development team.
Fantastic. All right, next on my list, Evilbrennan. Now that I've fixed your spelling on this page.
I've been playing Netrunner back in, my buddy had the core set and Honor and Profit, and we played a bit then, and then he moved away, and then I got back into it just when the very start of Borealis was coming out. I joined the development team, and now I work in visual and events. So,
very nice. And last but most certainly not least, we got EdwardB911.
I'm Edward. I started playing Netrunner in 2017 when I was introduced to the game by a mutual friend, and joined Green Level Clearance in the middle of 2022. I think out of the three of us, I have not had the opportunity to work for Null Signal Games, but there's a first time for everything.
We'll get you yet. Yeah, all right. So today was a big day. And actually, Safer, you put out an article, which I'm sure will come up a little bit. But we had the Anarch spoilers from day 2, including the Anarch identity. So I think without much further ado, we'll get started there. This is Sebastio Souza Pessoa. Apologies to Portuguese speakers. Next up, he is an identity Gmod, so all you DJ Fenners lovers, you have another ID to pack with you. Whenever you take one or more tags, if you had no tags, you may install one connection resource from your grip, paying 2 credits less. As an additional cost to trash a connection resource with the basic action, the court must trash 1 card from HQ, and he is a 45-15. So, Edward, I might actually start with you. What are your initial thoughts on Seb?
I'm excited to see him. I'm not really sure if we can think of Seb the way we think of other Anarchs. I think Seb is very much an engine that, when done right, runs like a well-oiled machine. Your runs with resources like names are hard. The one that enters Anarch, Ayase, I think. you get an R&D access for breaching archives, and she tags you.
Iru.
Yeah,
Is it
Iru.
Yeah, Iro, thank
Yeah.
you. Iro Ayase Pessoa. My bad.
Your guess is
and
about as
wheels,
good as mine.
and wheels. Both connection resources, I think, that give you tags as a reward for a run. Well, in her case, as a punishment for a run. You get choices. And I think being able to weave runs with resources like that is going to be how you make this identity work. There is one thing I am worried about, which is that I think there are some resources that the Corp is willing to trash anyway, especially non-connection resources like twinning, which makes me wonder how Sebastio is going to deal with multi-access, if Sebastio decks want to run multi-access at all. But I'm very excited to see how people answer those questions.
Yeah, maybe he's a wake implant runner. Just hardcore, take it to the dome. Yeah, Evilbrennan, I'm gonna let you get in because I'll be honest, Safer did get a full article to say his initial thoughts, so I'll let him kind of react to the conversation here. I think.
I think he's great. I don't play a lot of runner. I'm mostly corp, and I wouldn't claim that I'm very good at mechanics. I'm in the visual team for a very solid reason, but I'm really excited to see Seb because we've been sitting on the art for a long time. But I think he's fantastic. He's not a tag me runner. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say we don't have to talk about him just as a competitive force. We can talk about him as an art piece and as a narrative piece. So I'd love to hear if you got any insight on the art for Sebastio. I'd love to hear about it.
Well, we got all the art at the same time, as far as I remember. So we've been staring at him for quite some time, waiting to reveal him, and it's nice to see that he's out in the world, and you can see where he fits in to the set in its entirety, just because he's on other cards, obviously, but there's other places where he might sneak in visually that the other people have picked up on, or we might show that again at some other point down the road. But he's visually very interesting because he's gone through a few iterations, but he landed on a pretty solid piece, and we've been sitting on him for so long, and it's nice to see him out in the world now.
Yeah, I like the theories that he was on the edge of Iru's art, and then also showed up in Strike Fund as well. So he's been the character whose visual design has been kind of around, but
I don't know if I can comment on the if he's in the Euro card or not, because I know the answer to that. I don't know if I can say or not.
Fair enough.
I have a feeling I know where people are expecting to see it. If we pan back to it, I think I saw his prosthetic on the right edge.
Yeah.
Or something. No, that's a person's back. That's my mistake.
Yeah, I think it might be right at the bot. I guess no one else except you guys can see my mouse, but just where the dark colored orange squares kind of go up. That looks like that could be one of those ridges of his wheelchair. But
yeah, as someone who hadn't seen the art and didn't realize that there was a potential that it could be in Iru's art, I was under the impression that that maybe Seb was in the art, but only because I think someone mentioned that they'd seen a broader piece, right? That's not just displayed on the card, because of course our art has expands a little bit past what gets shown on cards.
Yeah. Someone was asked. Galar was asking in chat why he has a wheelchair. I think there was supposed to be a fiction piece that, from my understanding, would explain some of the history of that. I think, unfortunately, some events led to it not being able to get published today, but hopefully we'll get it out, and that will give us an explanation. I think I know the narrative one, but it's not mine to tell. So there is an explanation for that aspect as well. Safer, I think your article was fantastic. I am gonna kind of make you do the thing that you maybe won't love to do, but like, do you want to kind of summarize at least the parts that pertained to Sebastio from that article, or if you have other thoughts based on what we've been talking about so far?
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to summarize. So, Sebastio is kind of NSG's first take on a runner that cares about tags. It is people are probably familiar with the tag me archetypes that historically were very, very strong. You had things like data leak reversal out of Anarch builds back in the day, account siphon spam, Liza, I believe I'm pronouncing that correct, was one that I completely missed, but seems to have been even more infamous than DLR, which to me was astonishing that anything could be more infamous than DLR. And yeah, so there were a lot of pitfalls, I think, that and lessons that we could take away from previous tag me archetypes, and Sebastio is kind of our result of that. And I'm pretty excited to see how it ends up turning out. I think that, you know, narrative, art, and I don't even know the story. I just mean that, you know, this character has kind of appeared already in different story beats, and it just kind of feels like it's a character that's resonating really well with people, and I'm really excited to be able to play with it myself.
Jai in the chat calling out. I want to talk about some of the other cards, but I think also Jai calling out Rogue Trading as a card that's in standard at the moment. That seems like it's probably worth consideration with the card pool we have. This reads, spend 2 clicks, gain 8 credits, and install a connection from hand, which seems, like a good baseline to start from, at least when building a deck.
Yeah, I think that Rogue Trading is a great card for Sebastio, and definitely one worth considering spending influence on. You get what, for two clicks you get 6 credits, and then you also get an install from hand. So you kind of mitigate the typical downside and kind of odd turns of Rogue Trading. But of course, Sebastio's protection clause only protects connections. So Rogue Trading, if it's so efficient and good for Sebastio, will also be a prime target for the corporation to spend 2 credits on if you don't clear the tags in the same turn.
Yeah, for sure.
One of the things I realized as you were talking about that is that a lot of the judgment calls we can make about Sebastio are judgment calls that people have made about Tag Me Zahia in prior years, because that Liza Talking Thunder tags are relevant criminal package. They all appeared in that deck, which used Obolus in combination with Counter Surveillance to have a very big R&D access that was tag enabled. As far as which resources are worth spending precious clicks on trashing. And I think to some degree, if players can make Sebastio fast, then it's okay to have those resources trashed, because if the corporation is trashing resources, they're not building boards, they're not advancing agendas, they're not scoring out.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's that interesting trade-off for both players. The runners considering, am I able to float this tag? And if they do decide to float the tag, the corp sitting there going, well, okay, am I evaluating this board state in the same way that the runner is evaluating the board state? And I think that's a part of like the interesting risk reward dynamic that we don't necessarily see as much being initiated from the runner side of the table.
Yeah,
and I think what also helps... Oh, carry on.
No, please.
And I think what also helps is that right now in Standard, Anarch has payoffs for accessing all 3 central servers. A lot of archive support, the new card.
Yeah, I think
I'm
actually, you know
very
what?
bad.
With all of that set, well, that's not quite the next card up. So we'll get maybe, but maybe that's a good sign of, you know, it's time to maybe talk about some of the other support cards that were spoiled today
Right.
along with them.
And then
So
Arrow for R&D.
yeah,
There it is. Eye for an eye. There's HQ punishment.
yeah. So here's some HQ tag based punishment. This is Eye for an Eye. It's a 1-cost run event. It says play only if you are tagged. I'm sorry, the opposite of that. Only if you are not tagged. Run HQ. If successful, take 1 tag and access 1 additional card when you breach HQ. Access, trash 1 card from your grip. Trash the card you're accessing. And this is 4 influence for Anarch. I do struggle to imagine what faction would use this card better than Anarch, but you know, it is in that hefty splash zone, but maybe not the most relevant thing for it. Actually, Brendan, I might go to you here. This is an art that I think is on the front cover of the set. I'd love to. I don't know if you were involved in the process for this art selection at all, but
the visual team kind of got together and thought, you know, there's some really striking art in this set, but with the name of, you know, Rebellion without rehearsal, we really needed to have something that showed a riot or a rebellion of some kind of political upheaval. So we did kind of go around and try to figure out what would be the best to show that. And there are, as you can see, there are other cards in the set that show this sort of struggle, but this one was the one that was the most eye-catching and really tied into the Automata initiative with the building in the background, which obviously you can see there. So we really wanted to have this on the cover. It was the best choice. It was the most obvious, but it was also the best one that we had.
very neat. I guess actually, while I've got you on, you know, on the hook, so to speak, what are your initial thoughts on this card? What makes you excited about it?
Well, I mean, usually I play Corpse, so it's terrifying, but it's you know, it's an imp essentially without virus counters and so on and so forth, because it can get rid of anything that I might be trying to set up. But so it looks really good to me. Looks strong. It's got a little bit of multi-access, and it allows you to just chuck stuff out. It looks like alongside with Burner, we're seeing a lot of things that just really disrupt a Corpse hand, regardless of if it's an operation or if it's ice or whatever it is. So I mean, we're not going to see this splash a lot of places with 4 influence, so it's very firmly an Anarch card. But yeah, it's definitely going to be something to keep an eye on. I'm not going to enjoy having it played against me, but it's definitely going to be something that's pretty fun. And you know, it even works in things like ESSA as well, so it's just a pretty strong card.
Yeah,
I think this
I
card.
agree. I agree that it's strong, but the thing I'm noticing with a lot of these one-time use bursty disruption tools is that they're all competing with the consistency of Maw. And I think that's something that a lot of deck builders have to consider when choosing to slot these cards. Is 2 trashes now worth more than 6 to 8 over the course of a game? I think that these new bursty cards, they're definitely more skill testing, and they are less able to take advantage of combo tools accumulating in the Corpse HQ over the course of a game. But on the other hand, if you need to protect yourself for a single turn in anticipation of a breach or of a flatline combo that you can't really save yourself from another way, sometimes the best way to respond is more gas. And that's where I think these will shine.
Yeah, I have a hard time imagining this going into a deck with Maul. I think it has such a restrict kind of synergy ask. You know, if you like evaluate this card at just its pure face value, you're trading your cards for the corp cards. It's basically a double if you think that you need to clear the tag, which most of the time you probably will need to. So it's like a double that costs 3 as a jailbreak. Super compelling, and I think the answer is probably not, unless you're drawing 2 cards off of Steel Skin or discarding a strike fund when you trash something. Like, I think that a deck that's playing Maul probably doesn't want to also be playing Eye for an Eye, but I think if you're not playing Maul, you're playing another console, then Eye for an Eye becomes a lot more compelling. I think another like interesting thing here is like Asa has sometimes run a single copy of Legwork just because as Anarch you want some form of HQ pressure, and if you're not willing to spend the influence on Legwork, Eye for an Eye can actually do a lot for you as like a single, like a 1x that's like very impactful, because you don't always even need to trash the card that you're currently accessing. Like if you hit an agenda, then maybe consider not trashing it and just stealing it. If you hit a trashable card like a Rashida, you can actually just pay a credit instead of paying a card from hand. So I think this card is deceptively flexible, but really, really has like a strict requirement in terms of like the requirements to want to put the card in your deck in the first place.
Yeah, I think
And
something.
also mulch decks.
I actually don't. I'm not sure if this ends up in mulch decks. I will say, as Sebas calls out in the chat, and I've seen around, like this does stack with other forms of multi-access, so you can play an HQ interface or a twinning, or if we get some other multi-access with Seb, like all of those would stack with an Eye for an Eye. So like this scales potentially quite well if you get other access, though I guess the question might be why, could you just do one or the other? Do you need both? But, having disruption, I think, is a really like handy thing for a lot of people, or a lot of different deck archetypes. So I could definitely see this having a slot. Yeah, and I think the Strike Fund and Steel Skin interactions, like, that card seems like it's just going to now go in every type of Anarch deck ever, because it goes in the core damage, it goes in the kind of mulch decks, and it seems like this maybe gives us a spot in this kind of Sebastio tag on, tag off kind of engine.
Yeah, and Sebastio may want some sort of protection versus end of the line too, so considering that you may be trying to float tag, Steel Skin was probably already a card that you were trying to slot.
You don't believe that Sebastio... I feel like Sebastio might actually want to get away with Jagganu Mercs, but who knows?
It's possible. Yeah, I could see it.
But, I think we've mentioned there was a third... this is the HQ threat. We have Iru kind of putting some threat on R&D, and we also have the Archives threat in the form of Privileged Access. This is a 0-cost run event. It says play only if you are not tagged. Run Archives. If successful, instead of breaching Archives, take 1 tag. When you take a tag with this event, you may install 1 resource from your heap, paying 2 credits less. Threat 3. When you take a tag with this event, you may install 1 program from your heap, and this is 2 influence. So it's a run event, so obviously we're going to play this out of Ken, and...
Unironically, you might be onto something.
What are we installing as Ken? What resources are we expending? I guess actually it's just like install daily casts for 1 credit, and like reinstall your a breaker that got rig shot, and make $1. maybe this is a Ken card.
I was also going to suggest Debbie in that slot.
Oh yeah, that's a good one too.
The real question is, what did you do to get your Debbie trashed in the first place?
Well, if you are importing privileged access with Ken and you have 17 influence, you might even, might be playing wheels. You might be able to use the trash effect, maybe not even to remove a tag, but to gain the clicks in an important turn, and then wanting to get wheels back. I think privilege access has a pretty positive interaction with wheels and the things that you can end up doing with it.
Most of Seb just makes me think that we're going to be seeing the kind of kick flips we're seeing in Arasana decks, but in Spicy Anarch flavor instead.
Oh, I like that a lot, actually. I saw someone in green level clearance bring this up, but Asmund Pudlat as a rig tutor that could be recurred with privileged access, 3 Botuli, 3 poison vials, 1 card, most of your influence, but very fast setup.
That is that's quite the fun little interaction there, and just recurring the botuluses as the court trashes them. Definitely puts this in a bit of a power spot. Yeah, I mean, this is a card that people seem to be quite excited about. It is doing a lot of things on a single run event, right? It is installing 1, maybe 2 cards, giving you discounts, and if you're Seb, you're maybe getting additional value if you can get the install from hand. So like this definitely seems like it's a pretty innocuous power card, but it definitely kind of reads like that.
I generally only play criminal, and if this makes me look at it and go, well, if I've screwed up and I've lost a program, if I have this slotted, it will save me in the late game to get it back.
Yeah, I think that's a really good shout. That to influence, maybe this is a form of recursion that criminal could look at, but
yeah, and I think if this card does make a really big splash, I think that the more people get used to this card in the presence, the more people might actually consider throwing a late game ice on archives. They might play around the threat a little bit to keep their scoring windows open for longer. I think I guess I'm not as stoked on this card as everyone. I think that the card is good, but the reactions that I've seen so far are this may be the best card printed in the set so far and stuff like that. So I really like this card. I think it's really interesting. I do think that the threat 3 matters quite a bit, because it means that you're really asking for a specific game state when you can make the run into archives. You can mitigate the taking tag portion of this in some way, shape, or form. You have a resource in your bin that you'd like to install, and you would have a program in your bin that you would also like to install. So I'm really interested to see how people end up utilizing this card and all the different kind of builds that people kind of try to make work with the card. Because just like Retrieval Run, I think that this is a kind of a card you can build a deck concept around.
yeah, I think the mention about threat 3 is also a really good shout. One of the things that I immediately thought about myself that day, I'm like, well, a lot of the mulch decks, part of their strategy is never get to threat 3 because they don't want to turn Oppo on. And so then it's oh, am I including this card just so that when I start scoring, I actually win? Or is this card actually just install a resource? Oh wait, I'm not actually really playing any except Cookbook. But maybe you can change the play pattern around that for sure. But no, I think yeah, I kind of am with you, Safer. I'm a little surprised to see how much people are looking at this card, I guess. But it's often when a lot of people are excited about something, there's something there. Maybe it's not always, So it's easy for me to be wrong about things. I guess it's a short way of saying all that. But
yeah, I think the Oppo call out is also really good too. Like so threat 3 is on, and if they Oppo'd you, you have to not be tagged to play this. So this card may actually just be sitting in your hand, and you may be, looking for a window 2 or 3 turns down the road to make use of this card. But even with all that said, clearly the output in the best case scenario for this card is very good, and I'm excited to see kind of how the card develops, partially because of how flexible it can be.
yeah, and I think I'm gonna try something and see if it works. I think this should work. Beautiful. Okay, we can pull up Sebastio and the other card at the same time. Amazing what technology can do these days. But yeah, I think it's like privileged access. I think very clearly is Sebastio thing. I guess one of the things I'm looking at is like, how am I going to draw in Sebastio? That seems like one of the things that's kind of missing. Maybe we'll get support, but I always like want to look at the current card pool. I'm like, can we afford to play a class act? I don't know if we. It seems like so influence heavy, but it is a connection, right? Install a class act for 2, draw a bunch, filter our draws in the future so we can avoid our uniques that we already have. Seems kind of fun. I also saw a question in chat that I'd love to get everyone's thoughts on. Is Sebastio the Paul's support that we've all been waiting for?
That is a good question.
I would be sorely disappointed if I don't see people on JNet day 1 playing Sebastio House Cafe.
Yeah,
I don't know if it'll be good or not, but I want to see it.
Yeah, no, it does seem maybe a bit tricky, but at the same time, like, hey, if we're installing a bunch of unique connections and then we get to a put down. I was trying to think of a big Anarch program, but we don't have like Morningstar anymore, right? Oops, I miss. Apparently, I can't spell Morningstar.
I think we need more payoffs. We need more. When installed this turn, good things happen. Something like Gauss, or Cyber Trooper Talut, which can boost the strength of anything when it gets installed that turn. I think maybe with those tools, you could have the Paul's program bouncing deck of your dreams. We still have Chameleon. This package was used in Chameleon, but it's a big ask to play all these Shaper cards and then not pick a Shaper ID. This is all your influence for this package.
I was gonna say, are you looking at the influence costs here? Because, whoo boy.
Well, that's fine. We're just gonna play Shaper, and we're gonna play Ayla,
yes,
so that we can find our DJ Fenris with more consistency, and then Ayla and Sebastio will work together, and make the Paul's Cafe deck.
I love the idea that the best deck that we can have, as plain as said, is to play someone else and DJ him in.
Or maybe I like this idea that maybe we should play World Tree Sebastio, where you can probably only play one, but you get to turn your connections into other connections.
Or alternatively, you can play World Tree and Shaper, and then sack a resource to find your Fenris to then turn into Sebastio.
Okay, well,
then I have
If we want to be consistent about playing Sebastio with all of these Shaper cards, that's probably the way to do it, but...
But also Sebastio is a setup card, and now we're saying that it is the we're gonna hit it mid to late game after we're already set up.
Yeah, let's set up on top of setup. I do think, it probably is worth I think, we haven't been talking about it much. I think there's like Solidarity badge. Like, I think there's a fun like little package we can already see with Solidarity badge of like, if we can do a Solidarity badge and an eye for an eye with Sebastio, like we have this nice little engine where we can either draw cards or remove tags for free potentially, as long as we're comfortable kind of floating them for a turn. So there's like, very clearly the beginnings of an in-faction engine as well, and like a, click, take a tag. And actually, I guess... Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say, yeah, we have some in-faction ways of kind of generating tags, and also ways of converting those into different types of resources that we might need. If we're looking for a connection, we can draw off a Solidarity. If we're looking to install one, we can drop the tag kind of thing. So yeah, I don't know. There's definitely feels like there's some pieces coming together here. I guess anyone else have initial thoughts on these 3 cards or this little package?
As far as draw, I'm surprised we haven't talked about Lago Paranoia Center yet. That feels like the cards are a matched set. We can see... Actually, that's not the same share. Is that could just be due to creative licensing or not knowing what Sebastio looked at the time, but it feels very much like these pieces go together. This is how Sebastio, in faction, consistently finds connections to draw. But speaking of connections, I wanted to bring this up during the Eye for an Eye discussion, which was, right now, Anarchs love Bankar, which is another card that trashes cards from the grip. And if you want a successful early breach, you're often relying on Vis or Botulus or some other sort of indiscriminate breaking to get yourself in there. But you're also an ID that loves tags and sometimes has to float a tag. And I think of all the resources that the Corp would be willing to spend their precious clicks money and cards to trash, this is one of them.
Yeah, I agree.
That's a good call out. I'm also, it sounds like chat is about to riot if we don't at least discuss Thunder Art Gallery. So...
Before we touch on Thunder Art Gallery, I just want to say visually, with 2 different wheelchair wheels, we did have a talk about that, and there's a reason of why you would have different wheels. It just depends on where you're going, what sort of surfaces that there are. So it is definitely a customizable thing, because wheelchairs are pretty customizable. You can do whatever you really like with them. So it just depends on where you're going and what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great shout out. I know that a lot of work went into kind of consulting and finding, people to talk to about how wheelchairs are used in the real world today, and how that might be used in the future. So thanks for illuminating that little point. I think that's a good one.
I'm the team visual, so if you have questions for art, I got you covered. Anything else, it gets really hazy.
I actually, I was going to say, I really like that we have a runner that has more than one outfit. I think he might be the first runner with a second outfit. Actually, no.
Yeah,
we know that Andy has a few outfits as well, but...
Yeah, he's very much a public figure, so, he's got to go out and shake hands and meet people, so you got to be able to change your shirt once in a while.
Someone should tell that to Wizard, I think.
Yeah, I also just really like how we're seeing similar characters throughout multiple pieces of the art to help tell the story. One of my favorite Netrunner cards of all time is actually Scorched Earth. It's usually the card that I talk about when I first am telling someone about the game for the first time. Scorched Earth, I don't mean mechanically, I mean narratively. Like, the art almost in itself tells the story and tells you kind of what Wayland is and what Wayland is all about, along with the flavor text. And I'm really starting to get the same vibes from the art and the narrative in this set. I think Business as Usual is a card that, was talked about the art yesterday on the podcast, but I got really large Scorched Earth vibes from Business as Usual, and I feel like Eye for an Eye being, the art header for the entire set, and now like Sebastio seeing different modes for them. I don't know what the appropriate way of calling it, but different outfits, different appearances for different settings. All of it makes it kind of just feel like it's oozing with flavor and stuff, and I don't know, I love it so much.
Yeah, I do think there's been a big improvement, or continual improvement in getting the characters involved in the story in multiple pieces and with more dynamism and range in their actions, which is quite nice. But sorry, Brennan.
Now, I'm the Wayland visual guy, so if we do want to talk about Wayland visual stuff, like the past 3 cards that we saw yesterday, let me tell you, I can go on for quite some time, but we don't have to, obviously, because we have other things to talk about.
I would actually love to get your favorite thing from the 3 we spoiled, but I think first we should, just to placate chat, we will talk about Tag Thunder Art Gallery for just a second.
It's a good call.
So, this is not a connection. It is a location. It's a ritzy location, one of those all-time FFG subtypes. And it says the first time you avoid or remove a tag, you can install a card from your grip, lowering its cost by 1. I believe this doesn't stack, so you don't get to lower the cost of a connection by 3, but you get 2 separate installs for 2 and 1 less, which I think is, if you can find draw, that seems quite good. I don't know. What are people's thoughts on this 1-2 combo?
I like that Thunder Art Gallery says card, which means that for your non-connection installables, it works for you anyway. The thing I'm worried about, it's not a connection itself. Sebastio doesn't protect it. And also, Sebastio's primary tag removal option right now, other than basic actions, is Solidarity Badge, which I believe triggers on trash.
Yeah, Solidarity Badge trigger. It's when your turn begins is when you can use it, and the counters are gained on trash.
Trash just like the counters. Yeah, when your turn begins, that is not a flexible action window, and it also tends to mean that...
Oh, I think we lost you.
The thing I was thinking of doesn't actually work. I was trying to see whether that required you to float tags. It does not.
Yeah, I'll say that no free lunch is a great way of timing when you are going to remove tags. And Thunder Art Gallery is each turn, if I believe. So you could even no free lunch on the corpse turn to double dip on tagging. Wow, that tag, that's really
tag removal.
If we end up getting a deck where Thunder Art Gallery and Sebastio and the rest of the tag package as a whole are being used, it's going to get very confusing because people are going to say tag for Thunder Art Gallery.
Yes. Yeah, it was someone in FFG thought it was quite clever, and then now we're going to have to live with the consequences of their cleverness. I think one card that we somehow forgot to mention completely is networking, which I think is definitely, a reasonable one to also talk about here. Taking a credit cost off, means you're now kind of gaining a credit. You're spending a card, but you kind of get it back. So, maybe network. I could definitely see networking having a place in Sebastio, and networking and Thunder Art Gallery are pretty low on influence, so you still have some influence to play with if you want to play with one or both of these, which might be a nice place to go.
Well, I mean, visually speaking, that's what he's doing on the card. He's networking.
That's a great shout out.
Do these mass install builds struggle for hand space? You need installables. You need networking to be able to reliably bounce back and forth into your hands, so that's effectively hand size -1 with respect to the other choices you can play from hand. Hopefully your draw is on the board so that also doesn't have to take up hand space. I was thinking Earthrise, but this might actually work better because it's a connection.
Yeah, I do worry a little bit that we'll just say, oh yeah, it's a connection, therefore it's a Seb card. And like Dr. Nuka probably, like, I could see being a good Seb card because it kind of solves some issues for him of I need to draw a lot, and it's a little bit of additional value. But I do actually think Earthrise is a potential, like, I actually think this is true in Standard at the moment. I think some decks should be playing Earthrise where they're playing Dr. Nuka's, because I think for a good chunk of decks, and actually Sebastio's going to be seems like it might be a kind of click heavy engine where you have to spend a click, generating the tag and a click clearing the tag, and then so you kind of only have 2 clicks left on your turn. That may not be enough in all cases, so I could see a case for Earthrise, even though it's not a connection, kind of being a better fit for Sebastio.
I was looking at it from the point of view of influence limits and the fact that Sebastio loves importing from Criminal, at least as far as fan speculation seems to be going.
Yeah, I think
there's always our chameleon jank build, but that is a test for another game.
Yeah, I think the one thing that Nuka has over Earthrise is just the timing. Like, you can control when you draw, and presumably with Seb you would be controlling when you take the tags. So you might end up in my one qualm with Earthrise, and this is just in current meta, is that it is fairly expensive to install, and then you need to make use of the cards you're drawing. So it's not really good if you're a deck that is trying to run low to the ground. So I definitely think Earthrise is worth considering as draw. I think it's a good shout out here. I think that the Nuka Earthrise debate and which one you want to slot into your deck I think that's a really good comparison. It's like it's really nuanced, but like Nuka, I don't think the connection part on Nuka is as relevant as the fact that the quantity of draw and to the timing that you get to draw it feels fairly important.
Yeah. I think this has been a great discussion, but I want to cut it off because I do want to hear some details about the Wayland art. So, Brendan, if you want to give me your favorite piece of the 3 pieces that we saw yesterday, was there any one that like you really want to make sure we hear the story behind, and I can go and pull up the high res ones
Well, we were just talking about I know it by a different name, so I got to look it up. The one with the dead guy in it.
Yes.
Business as usual.
Yes.
That's the one. Thank you.
Yes.
The nice thing about talking about cards in a visual narrative sense is with that card, there's a lot going on there that might get lost in the details. Like, obviously someone has been shot, but the shot didn't come through the window, so it was definitely from someone standing directly in front of him. It wasn't shot from across the desk. Like, that person made sure that he was facing them towards the sunrise, and then shot him at point blank range. And like the people in there, the office cleaners that are coming in to clean it up, like, they just have headphones on because they're just regular cleaners. They're not they're not high paid Wayland goons. They're just people working their job. This is just what they do. So they're just clearing out an office. It just happens to be a dead person in it.
Oh wow, I totally interpreted the cleaners as, well, quite literally the cleaners. Like I thought they were just kind of like sent in to tidy up the space and to make it look maybe like the person did it themselves, kind of thing.
Right.
Especially with the flavor text of like, don't think about it, you'll sleep better. I was like, if you were one of those cleaners and you're like, why did this happen, who is this person, and like Wayland, your boss, is just like, don't think about it, you're here to do your job, don't worry, everything is fine. That person's not fine, but everything's fine.
Now, of course, I'm not narrative. I'm just visual, so I don't have a lot of connection to the flavor text that goes onto cards. But to me, and I wrote the art brief for this, but how that gets turned into art and how narrative takes that afterwards is out of my hands. But to me, the don't think about it, you'll sleep better, that's not necessarily for the people cleaning them up. That's for the next person that takes that chair.
Oh.
Like that's purely my perspective. Do with it what you will, but to me, that's for the next executive to sit down in that chair.
It's a really interesting take.
Do they happen to cost exactly one less?
No, I think
God.
maybe they're, but if they're expendable, maybe they made the Scorp 2 credits on their way out.
Yep.
I'm kind of, we've got the Nuvem art as the kind of background art, at least for today and tomorrow. And I'm kind of curious what the process was like, because this particular one was maybe a little more architecture-y than the other ones. A lot of the corp arts have been very like people focused, and I wonder kind of if you want to talk a little bit about if that made differences for you guys on the art side, because I'm assuming it was a little bit different. But
yeah, well, obviously for this whole set, we've been trying to do like people instead of buildings, but we still want the headquarters, because the headquarters art is always a lot of fun. So we just we put agendas with buildings and we put people with the IDs. And this one's kind of fun because they're not quite set up yet. You can tell that there's construction workers there. There's corporate goons there. There's also corporate suits there. And there's also the director is also in there as well of Nuvem. So you can tell that there's a lot going on there. They're looking at the plans for what the building's going to look like when it's done. And you can see that it's not finished. There's wires hanging down from the ceiling and so on and so forth. So there's a business meeting with all involved. Yes, Darth Vader.
What I find very interesting about this art is that the helmets on the for lack of a better words, I guess, armed goon on the right and the hard hats of Nuvem construction workers, they're almost exactly the same design, even though these are, I assume, very different sorts of jobs. And I think that could be emblematic of Wayland's, I suppose, militancy in how they choose to hire employees and structure their pyramid.
Yep. The one thing, the interesting thing that you bring up about hats in this particular piece is, if you think about a construction site, if you are a corporate executive and you're walking into a construction site, the very first thing they do is they hand you a hard hat and a vest so that nothing bad happens to you. Oddly enough, our corporate executives, they're not wearing anything like that. But that was on purpose. I can't speak to why that's the same style between the armored corporate goon and the construction workers. I think that's just a happy coincidence. But the executives not having any kind of safety equipment is entirely on purpose. If something bad happens to them, that's not their fault.
Yeah.
That is your fault, and you're the next person in the chair on the last card.
it saves money. The hats use the same model. I also noticed that these hard hats are missing the valve, the twist valve that allows you to tighten the band of the head so that it fits firmly around the construction worker's head.
Well,
The
this is.
year is
This is 20XX whatever, right?
I was
Maybe
gonna
they've
say.
got an auto sizer in there that just kind of, you know,
Yeah, it's the
tightens
future. They
up.
3D print it to your head specifications when you walk in the door.
Actually, before you walk in the door, because they're that good, right? Yeah, I think I want to start. We've been live for about an hour, so I figure it's time to start wrapping us up. I guess I might ask everyone what they're most excited to see in the rest of spoiler season. So I'm gonna start with Edward here. What are you kind of most looking forward to for the rest of spoiler season here?
I brought it up in Daily Question, but I want to see, I suppose, a proactive runner, for lack of a better word. A runner that has a clear game plan. They've been multi-axis and central based in the past, but it's possible that might change in this set. But I've noticed that a lot of strong decks, they thrive off of single accesses, remote camping, very much reacting to corp game plans. And I want to see proactive runners that have a plan at the deck building phase and can stick to it. I'd like to see that option there.
Cool. Evilbrennan, what are you most excited about for this upcoming spoiler season?
Oh man, it's really difficult to say because I can't wait for everybody to see all the cool art we've done. Some of the art we've thrown up, like we've all seen the big snake and how amazing that is. But yeah, I don't know. I'm really excited for the rest of the Wayland stuff to come out. That was sort of my jam, so it's fun to see people react to the art and get really pumped for what the cards can do that we've seen the art for. Like, what does the big snake do? Bad things probably, but I'm just really happy to have everything come out and be able to make really terrible decks that will be terrible on JNet. That's really what I'm excited for.
I know it's probably poor form to ask, but are we going to get a mega structure? I've been using big Wayland walls, big Wayland mega structures to pitch the game to friends. So I'd really like another tool in the box for when this set
No,
comes out. Because I don't think
I've
I
played a
can
lot of.
top last set's giant boat.
Oh, all right, all right. When you say mega structure, I play too much Stellaris, so I'm thinking like a Dyson sphere, and I'm going that's a little bit beyond Wayland right now. But
I mean,
there's definitely some.
that's what happens when you attach a bunch of trees to each other, right? Get a big solar array, lots of leaves.
Yeah, yeah.
Arrange them in a sphere if you'd like.
I can't promise anything.
All right, and Safer, what are you looking forward to most in this upcoming spoiler season? You think?
Okay, so I'm gonna split this into dev safer and personal safer. So dev safer, very excited to see people's reactions to cards. This is my first set release as being a part of NSG, and getting the cards, I guess, in hand and kind of sitting down to the table with my local group and seeing the cards kind of come out and see what decks people have kind of first thought of is probably going to be the most exciting for me. Just seeing new things that people have done with these cards that I've been working on kind of nonstop for the last couple of months. Personally, there's one piece of art in this set that is probably my single favorite piece of Netrunner art ever, and I really, really want it on a playmat. Really, really badly. I think my very first reaction when I saw it was playmat when. So personally, excited for that. And then the last personal thing is that there is a specific NBN card that is incredibly fun that I really, really look forward to being able to play with and also see how people react to that specific card.
Very cool.
Now, what faction? I know you can't tell me, but what faction does that art belong to? You can't say what it is, I assume, but
that art is an Anarch.
okay, yeah, I know the one.
Yeah. Can we please put it? Can we please put it on a playmat, please? I think it's the most. It's the best. It's clearly playmat art.
Oh yeah. I think I know which one you're talking about. I thought there's a shaper card that I also really want as a playmat, though it's a little bit different.
I know which one you're.
I
think I know.
Anyway, we're being obnoxious to all the listeners now, so probably a good sign to wrap it up. I want to thank all of you for coming on. It's been a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to seeing what else we get. I know that in the spoiler schedule, the Neon Static crew will be spoiling some more Anarch cards. So hopefully they go with Sebastio, and that'll be just in 2 days. It will actually be right after the stream. So the plan, I think, is to go and throw right to them. Yeah, apologies, Jack. You arrived at just the wrong time, it seems. But don't worry too much about it. So thanks, Safer. Thanks, Brennan. Thanks, Edward. Tomorrow, as a reminder, is daylight savings, or whichever. So it's going to be in a different hour in one direction for those of you that don't all shift. Good luck with that. I don't understand time zones. So I will see y'all at 6 p.m. tomorrow, and 6 p.m. US. And yeah, thanks so much. And looking forward to finally getting some HP tomorrow. So with that said, thanks everyone. And I think that's gonna be a lid on it.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was fun.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's been great. Thanks.